Okay, Patrick, I guess we'll get our roll call to start off.
Thank you, Warden Clark. So all members of council are present this morning, with the exception of Councillor Michael Smith, and we have alternate Councillor Henry Sander in attendance for Councillor Smith. You have your quorum.
Thank you. Is there anyone that has commitments and has to leave early today? Not seen any. I expect a very short meeting today. I think we can count on that. Approval of agenda. Councillor Dolan.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by alternate Councillor Sander that the agenda for September 10th, 2024 meeting of Committee of the Whole be approved.
Everybody's heard the motion. Is there any questions or comments? Yes, Councillor Dolan.
Thank you. I read the wrong resolution.
Oh, I was still flipping
Moved
pages.
myself and seconded by Councillor Sander that the agenda for the September 10th, 2024 meeting of County Council be approved.
Here we go. On the motion, any questions on the agenda? All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Do I have a disclosure of pecuniary interest? Any member of council? Not seeing any. If you find yourself in that situation later, please declare it. Presentations and deputations, we have none. Consent agenda. Councillor Burkett.
Thank you. Through you, Your Worship, moved by myself, second by Councillor Norcross, that the Council communications and proclamations August the 13th, 2024 to September the 9th, 2024 have been given due consideration be received.
On that motion, any questions arising? All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Adoption of council minutes and the Committee of the Whole. So now we will go to the Deputy Warden, Coughlin.
Good morning, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Laux, that the following council minutes be confirmed and adopted. That the Joint County Council Committee of the Whole minutes of August 13th, 2024, Confidential Joint County Council and Committee of the Whole Confidential Report, August 13th, 2024.
On those minutes, any questions arising? All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Presentations, considerations of the Committee of the Whole reports, we have none because it was a combined meeting last time. So we will now roll right into special reports. So it's a Governance Committee report. That the Governance Committee recommendations contained within the Governance report dated August 27th, 2024 be approved. Moved by Deputy Warden Coughlin. Could I have a seconder? Councillor Evans. All in favor? Well, I think you're going to want some discussion on that. but I tried. So on the governance, the one thing I will do is I'll frame it a bit before we get going. If you look at the motion, it's pretty basic. You know, it's recommending the 17. I guess, is there an item? Should we pull it, do the rest of the governance, and maybe I would expect we want to pull that item.
You can do that. So there is one other item, the Swift Board item.
The Swift Board item was on there. Do you want to just deal with it? Maybe we should pull it. Is everybody fine with that if we pull item? I don't have it in front of me, Patrick. So we'll pull item 6.2, which is the governance recommendation to go to 17. So do I need to move in a second? No, not to pull it. Not to pull it. So on the remainder of the governance committee, which is the appointing of the Swift Board, is everybody fine with that? All in favor? And thank you. Now we'll deal with item 6.2. And I will frame it a bit. If you look at it, it's pretty basic motion because everything contained in this motion will require the triple majority. So the details, as they say, the devil's in the detail, the criteria we would have for warden, what we're going to do with the local committees and all the subcommittees, that can be a discussion at a later date because that can all be decided by this House. Where the recommendation now, if passed today, still has to go to a public meeting. And then the bylaw would have to come back to council and be voted on at that time. So that's why it's framed in the package the way it is. And you'll also look, we put default as mayor, recognizing now that there is alternates, so that if a local mayor felt the workload was too heavy, there's nothing prohibiting the alternate from coming to 99 or 100% of the meetings. So just mayor is put in as default, but that doesn't mean the mayor has to be represented if the local municipality decides to go a different direction. So on that, just framing it, why don't we open it up for discussion? Councillor Burkett, I saw your card.
Thank you, through your worship. Just so, and I'm a little confused about the triple majority, so that we don't spend a whole lot of time on this. Can someone explain what actually, if this gets passed, or doesn't get, or what, if it gets passed, what actually is the procedure? Does it have to go back to our prospective councils? Do we have to vote on it as a majority? Like, how does that work?
Patrick has that all queued up, ready to go, because I had the same question this morning, because, yeah, the triple majority does get confusing.
Through you, Warden Clark. So triple majority is basically three components. One, a majority of votes on county council in favor of the bylaw. So when the bylaw, if it comes back, that would be the first component. The second is a majority of lower tier councils passing resolutions consenting to the bylaw. So county council would pass the bylaw, but then it would go to each of the lower tiers, and your lower tiers would have to then pass resolutions that consent to that bylaw. And then the third component is the lower tier councils consenting to the bylaw have to represent a majority of all electors in the upper tier municipality. And electors here is defined as essentially being like the electors, like the voters in your municipality. So there has to be a majority of electors basically across the county that are also represented by the lower tier municipalities.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Well, it has to be passed out of the 16 municipalities. A majority of them must pass it. But then when we add up the total amount of councillors that voted, because I don't know how many councillors are in Simcoe County. It's got to be close to 100. It's got to be a majority of all the councillors as well that put their hand up in favor of it. So that's where the triple majority comes in. Go ahead, Mike.
Supplementary, if I may. Based on what the province has done pre-COVID, and they're looking at downsizing the count of the Simcoe or making it a region, is this even a worthy exercise for us to go through? Because this is my fourth term, and here we go again. And in the essence of time, and if the majority here feels that we should go through this process, I'm happy to do it again. But looking at the amount of work that needs to be done to make this work is something that I can't support, I'm sorry. And then the province, not sure, maybe looking and thinking, well, if there's dysfunction at this level, maybe they'll step in and do something. So really, do we want to go down this path?
Yeah. Well, and you're right, it is an onerous path, and it's why we haven't done it in the past. I guess the advantage now is we're under a regional review, like it or not. At least if we send a strong message from this House, then that's the message that I can champion. If we say status quo, everything's working fine, and that's the message you want me to take back, I can do that. Or if we're recommending going to the 17, then the municipal affairs can just make it happen, and the triple majority wouldn't be required. So you would present it to them and say, well, this is what we decided. Do we go through the triple majority, or do you waive the pen? So I think we need to send a position that this House wants to stand strongly behind, and that's the one that we represent. Judith, go ahead. Councillor Cox, sorry.
First of all, I don't like the idea that if he decides it's okay, we don't do the triple majority, because I think that it should be that way. I think the people and the councillors of Simcoe County should make the decision if that's what we're going to do. And second of all, my theory on this one is this works, and it has worked. We've gone through this. You've gone through it 4. I don't know how many I have, but it works. And I don't, you know what, you have 32 people. Everybody says, oh, that's so big. But it's ideas and things that happen. And you go back to your council, and they're represented, and I believe that it works the way it is. In my opinion, if the provincial government doesn't believe it works, then let's sit down and have a review, and let's see how we can all work together to make it work. But I will have to say that I voted against it at governance, and I will vote against it again. Thank you.
Councillor Evans.
Thank you very much, Warden. Appreciate the opportunity. With all due respect to the previous two speakers, I think the reason that we're here is because of what hasn't been done in the past. And with all due respect, I know there's 4 terms that we've looked at this. But the Simcoe, County of Simcoe is going through changes. We're all facing this, big and small, infrastructure, social services, hospitals. This community is changing rapidly. And I think we all want to be ahead of this in terms of how do we protect and maintain Simcoe County moving forward. I'm in favor of this, and there's a couple of reasons why. First of all, the efficiency and the focus of this. All due respect, we sit on this every 2 weeks. We also have other jobs that we do with our townships or in our municipalities and towns. And some of us also have other full-time jobs. This is a big organization. This is something that needs focus, and it's something that we need to, I think, pare this down and act a lot quicker and more responsively to the challenges of home building, the challenges that we're all seeing on a much quicker basis than we ever have in before. I think there's some cost savings to be had, frankly. I know that, it's not a huge amount going from 32 to 16, but it's significant. And I think it sends a message to the public that it's not about just adding people and adding layers and trying to make things work better, that we're trying to be more efficient and more cost savvy in terms of how we spend our money. And I think that's something that's really a message that we should be putting forward. The leadership side of this. We're all supposedly, some of us more full-time or more part-time than others in our current jobs that we're doing on a lower tier level. And then we ask somebody in the same level to go and do do another job for a corporation. First of all, I think it's untenable for the warden to try and do both jobs. I think it's it's asking way too much of somebody. And at the same time, as much as we might not like it, we represent two levels. They just don't have the time to be able to understand and act on both local or individual issues, plus the Simcoe issues. And the Simcoe issues are coming fast and furious. It's not just in New Tech and Bradford where homes are being built. The town of Midland is going to be building 3,000 to 5,000 new homes. So, I said earlier that all the issues will be, there's small and large in the community, or our county. The same issues are pervasive throughout. I think having, frankly, one person from each township with one warden is much more clear and provides much more clarity to the township in terms of, in my case, a township or a town or a municipality. The people in the community know, okay, this is the person that's sitting on Simcoe County. This is the person I go to and I talk to about it. And I think that gives the public a clarity to say, okay, well, yeah, if I've got a question about Simcoe, I go to them and I look at it. And I think we've got a lot, in this same bill, we've got a flexibility with not just, we talked about the substitutes or alternates. So even if there's perhaps the mayor we have a designated alternate to come in, so there's fluidity there and transparency, but also in the voting structure, to look at the voting structure. And this is something, as you'll look at the chart, on an individual level, we're the tiny township is the one that's going to benefit the least from any changes in that, but I'm fine with that in the sense of that, this is for the greater good of the town, or the community of county, to be able to implement these things. There are problems. Yeah, Councillor Clocks, you're right. The reduced representation. Some people might say you go from 32 to 16, and there's different views that may not be represented there. That's something that we have to be cognizant of, and we have to maintain that and make sure that those views are brought forward. And I see this as something that maybe we do at a township level or at a lower tier level as well. Currently, right now in our council, we have an announcement section where we say, here's what happened at county. Now, I hate to say it, but hardly ever gets pulled. But unless one of us sitting here makes note of it, nobody really pays much attention to it. So I think we have to, on a lower tier level, provide more transparency and information to the public at our level of what is going on at county. And to make sure, I mentioned about garbage our last meeting, and these are things that we have to be more cognizant and more proactive in terms of getting our people together. What is another downside is the 16 plus one person is the workload. So just like I mentioned earlier, we're, part-time mayors, deputy mayors, whoever is sitting on the committee is going to be a lot more involved. We know how many committees there are in county, and you're going to be a lot more involved and a lot more engaged. But I think that's a good thing. I think we have to start being more proactive and more hands-on from a governance side, and we're a board. And being more involved in terms of what is going on a county level. And I know it. Nobody likes change. No more so than myself and where we are. Nobody likes change. And I get it. I understand it. It's unsettling. It's concerning. We've moved up here in a lot of cases because we like the uniqueness and the characteristics of the community, and we want to maintain that. And there's always trepidation. There's always going to be fear that, you know, power will run amok and uncontrolled and things will change and it'll never be the same again. Well, that's not going to happen because we're going to have a council that's made up of, I think, more proactive and engaged people in the community. The other thing, one other advantage I see is that, you know, we had a workshop and we all agreed. I think that a smaller council made sense and a full-time warden position made sense. Full-time warden position is CEO of this corporation. This corporation is $750 million in size. And we're, in all due respect, we're not tiny anymore. We're region, county, whatever you want to call it. I think sometimes we do ourselves a disservice by calling it County of Simcoe. And people go, oh, you're like county. I was in Renfrew last week, County of Renfrew. So I checked out the population of County of Renfrew, 41,000 people. I'm going like, well, hold on here. So be careful the paradigms you put yourself under and that you start thinking like that way. We're not. We're, as we know, the largest county in Ontario and comparable in sizes and in scope to regions. Now, I don't care about the semantics of it, honestly. I just want to be able to, we can provide the best services to our community. And I think that what's going on in the community from all levels is this rapid change in demands for infrastructure and refocus and moving things quicker, building more homes, as we all said many, many times at AMO. But that idea that we have to start reacting quicker and but be more private sector oriented in terms of being proactive and frankly not relying on the ways of the past to solve the problems of the future. And so for those reasons, Council, I'm totally in favor of this. And I'm willing to stand and put my name behind it. Thank you very much, Warden.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Laux.
Thank you, through the chair. There's a saying that says if it's not broken, don't fix it. I believe that the way this council works at this point is working. I understand it's been brought up 3 or 4 times through the governance committee, and the reason that it has stayed the same is because it should stay the same. It is working. And no offense to anybody else's comments. Changing to 16-person, if you were to just have the mayors be on that committee there, I believe the overload on a mayor would be negative to their own township and to the county of Simcoe. I believe the workload would be too much. I understand that there could be alternates put in place, but me personally, I've been here. I'm a new guy here. I've missed 1 meeting in the 2 years I've been here. I don't want to send an alternate here because I don't think sending an alternate here gets things done. The people that sit here all know what's going on. They know a little more firsthand what's going on. Sending an alternate to me just doesn't seem like, it's an option, but it doesn't seem like a great option. If we're talking about cost savings or anything like that, I don't think that point could even be brought up. I don't think it's even 0.5% of what monies are spent, depending on which option you choose from. We have a budget of $774 million, so I don't think that's an issue. And the other aspect of it, I believe, is what people are looking at is this meeting here. Twice a month, they look at this meeting here. They don't see all the other meetings that are happening, all the behind-the-scenes meetings that happen. You have 59 internal committees and 9 external committees, so 68 committees there alone. I sit on 1 because that's all I can do. So if you're going to reduce that down to 16 members and try to put that kind of workload onto them, I believe they're going to be overwhelmed. If it is strictly the mayors that are doing it, then their own townships, I believe, will suffer. And I don't think there's anything truly wrong with the way that this system is working right now. And I'm going to vote in favor of keeping it this way. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Sandu.
Thank you, Warden. First, I want to thank the committee members for going through this exercise and bringing this forward. It is a tough task, and as it was mentioned before, this has been brought many times here in the past. I'm all in favor of less government representation, but it has to be meaningful. When I look at this, I compare it to my residents in Bradford, West Goulburn, and anyone can look at from their point of view, from their municipality, how is this change going to benefit the residents of that municipality? What extra services are they getting? What red tape are we cutting? What duplication are we cutting? And I don't, unfortunately, see this in this. We're reducing from, 32 elected members to 16. Okay, that's good. But how is that benefiting the bottom line? Are we duplication planning other divisions? That's where I want to see the change, and that's where we need to look at further than this. This is just one step. And I agree, we're at a point where we need a full-time warden. This is not a job that, you can do part-time and also have your own responsibilities. We need to have that. But I don't think we're going far enough with the recommendations we have before us.
Okay, Deputy Warden.
Thank you. And just to add on to Councillor Sandhu, I think that the focus here for me is the full-time warden. I think that we can all agree that the county has evolved from whether it's a county to a region. We know that the role of warden is full-time, and it deserves to have someone there full-time. We know that if we were to go to the province and suggest that we're turning county council from 32 to 33, that would not be approved. To me, reducing the size of county council to 17 is so that we can get a full-time warden in here and someone that's going to champion this county, move the county forward, and continue focus for the county. I don't see getting a full-time warden any other way than reducing to 17.
I will, and there's been good comments around the table. I will say, yeah, that there's still work to be done. The 17, this is the triple majority stuff. When it comes to the committees, yes, we're going to have to take another look. Do we need all the committees we have? Do we open those committees up to electors that aren't necessarily county councillors? Those are options that we can still explore going forward to work, as they say, the devil's in the details. But for today, we're focusing on what requires the triple majority. Go ahead, Councillor Corbell.
Thank you, Warden. I just want to kind of speak more from a personal level. I do recall, when Premier Ford reduced the size of Toronto. I think we all do. I'd also like to say that, we have comparators out there that are not 32 members in size, other regional governments that provide a similar service to their constituents and are smaller. And from the other personal aspect is when I was on the campaign trail talking to folks on their doorsteps and knocking on doors, one of the things that I did tell them was that I wasn't merely seeking the position of deputy mayor for Springwater Township, but in fact I wanted to be instrumental at the county level for certain issues that I felt were very important. And one of the things that I did reach out to them and ask them was what they thought about the size of county council and the number 32 in comparison to other regional governments. And I would be doing a disservice to the folks that I spoke to who overwhelmingly suggested to me that they thought that county council was too large, too cumbersome, and unnecessarily had too many people on board. And I'm in the deputy's position, so obviously if I run next term and this moves forward, I'm going to have a vacant seat here and I won't be here, as will other members. But I'm not here to protect my position or my seat. If this was to pass and at the beginning of 2025, that's when it took place, I'd be okay with that because I believe that this council can move forward. I think the full-time warden is a great idea. And while I do suggest that maybe there are a lot of committees, I have to question the fact that how is it that these other regional governments and county governments manage it with fewer than 32? So I will be supporting this. I think I owe it to the constituents that I spoke to back in 2022 because I specifically brought this topic up to them, and that's what I heard from them. So I will be supporting this going forward. Thank you.
Okay, do I have any other comment? Yes, Councillor Hamlin.
Thank you, Warden. I am also going to support the recommendation I think my colleagues have amply explained why the warden should be a full-time position. We're no longer a small rural county. We're a large group of municipalities with the next wave of population in Ontario is going to come through Simcoe County, and we're only going to get bigger. And I can't imagine not moving forward with a full-time warden. It's a difficult question on the number of representatives here. And I'm not sure I would have otherwise had a strong feeling on this, but I'm just going to say what I see as the political reality. I've been on my local council for 6 years now, only 2 years in this House, of course. But I have observed that provincial government has done a review of Simcoe County twice in 6 years. And it just seems to me that there's big questions around our county. As of yet, we never see the answers. I don't think we'll see anything before the next provincial election, which I suspect we'll see in about 6 or 7 months. But I have to believe in the fullness of time, if we don't act ourselves, the province is going to act. And we know our Premier is not in favor of large governments at the municipal level. As has been just mentioned, the Toronto Council was slashed almost in half. How did they manage? Well, my observation has been they added staff. They didn't add more decision makers. At Toronto, they added more staff. And I'm not saying that's an answer here, but, you know, that would be something to consider if we each had help, even if we're sharing assistants or whatever they're called, that would help us and the decision maker. But for me, I'm supporting this because I think if we don't, we could be jeopardizing the county itself. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Councillor Measures, Rawson, and then McDonald. So go ahead, Doug.
Okay, thank you very much, Your Worship. For members of this House, I must say that the discussion at the Governance Committee, of which I'm honored to be a member, was quite fulsome. Each of us had an opportunity to share some of their opinions. And similar to what Councillor Corbell said, I thought about some of the residents that I've spoken to and how surprised residents are to hear that County Council is made up of 32 members. There's a lot of apathy in voters, a lot of apathy in our citizens about how governance actually works. And so, you know, I was considering some of those things. So I must say, in my heart, I see us reducing our numbers here at this House. But I do consider that there are a lot of, as you said a minute ago or a moment ago there, Your Worship, you talked about the devil in the details. One of the details that stands out to me very clearly is that the warden's position, or the chair of this House, would be a non-elected person. If we move to this as presented, it would be someone who is then appointed by the 16 members of the House for that role. And I find that in the devils of the details that there's no recall opportunity in that. The person would be an elected person by 16 members, and yes, they have to qualify as an elector here in Simcoe County, but that doesn't mean that the citizens had the opportunity to vote for them, or that they are actually accountable to directly to taxpaying citizens. So there's a lot of this report and this ideal that came forward that makes sense. There's a lot of it that doesn't make sense to me. I'm more of the opinion that as you've heard, the government of Ontario make these decisions, and you know, we all have to face the fact that we're all here simply at the will of the province, and you know, we do try to do our best to have influence over ministers and members of the provincial House by having relationships and talking to them and bringing forward our ideals. And it's becoming increasingly difficult from my desk as the mayor of Clearview to try to get any reaction, as I'm a small municipality, much like Councillor Evans was speaking about. Whether this change actually happens, whether it will impact the township of Clearview, is really minimal. You know, we have a very effective council at our own table
I have great respect for our deputy mayor and all members of my council, and we work very effectively. Just to share, you guys all might want to consider, we regularly have council meetings where every single motion is passed unanimously at our council meeting. We rarely have large debates of opposing opinion. What I have always enjoyed about the county house here is that there are often opposing opinions, and we don't always pass things unanimously around this house. And I think that that brings health and prosperity to democracy and to how our governance model works. Whether the citizens really care or even pay attention to it, it doesn't matter, because we know as elected officials that we're doing the best job we can for our citizens and for the citizens of Simcoe County. So I think that this whole process, while it has been obviously talked about the last 4 terms, as was mentioned earlier, it was talked about in the last term when I sat here that we didn't see any changes. I think we continue to spin wheels, spend a lot of time discussing this when, one, the citizens don't really even know what's going on. I think that the citizens do know that we have a warden. I think that title and that figurehead role and that naming of that title, people understand that. But I don't think they actually understand the amount of work that the warden has to do or is called upon to do, and the fact that he or she gets pulled away from the work of their own municipality. So there's a lot that I don't think that citizens fully capture in our work. But I do believe that we do have to make a decision, and I was not happy with the as this was presented. So I did, as Councillor Cox mentioned, that she voted against it, as did I at the Governance Committee. But honestly, not because of the discussion about the reduction. I think that the reduction is something that could work, reduction in members. I'm more concerned about how the warden gets elected, or elected or non-elected. I'm more concerned about possibility of, if it's a non-elected person, there's no recall. I also think that the voices of our deputy mayors have been very, very valuable, and I think that we need to consider how that would work. If we move that forward, where that the deputy mayors or the alternates could in fact participate here in the House, much like our friends from the separated cities. Those type of discussions need to shake that out if we get a decision. Today, I'm still open. Honestly, I'm probably going to vote against this motion as presented, because of the reasons that I brought forward. But as I stated, in my heart, I do believe we should be reducing our numbers here. So I'll leave it at that, and I look to hear for other great debate and comments from the great members here, because I listened very carefully to what each of you had to say, and I'm glad to hear the many voices across our beautiful county.
Okay, I've got Councillor Rawson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I appreciate the dialogue that happens here, and I think 32 voices bring a different opinion every time, and sometimes I come with one thought and then a changed thought hearing different voices. One thing I find interesting when we're talking about shrinking this House is federally and provincially, it increases every election, and it's by representation. The last time federally, we increased 49 new MPs in the House, and provincially by 17. And we talked about how much the County of Simcoe has grown, but we don't talk about how we should represent a larger representation. We're talking about shrinking. I don't understand the rationale behind that when we're thinking about we're here to represent our community. I think speed is one thing, but I think we're here to be open and transparent to our community and reflect the community that we're here to serve. And I think having multiple voices here helps us with that front. We have tremendous staff that provide us expert guidance and support what we need to do. I'm a little concerned if we shrink, because if we do shrink, we may have to increase staff to do the extra workload. We're here to provide sound decision-making for our residents. We're closest to our residents. We provide water, sewer, roads, transportation network. We're helping support schools and hospitals, but we want to shrink that. I think we're going the wrong way. I've talked to council members, people in my town, much like council measures. Most people don't know the size of our council, what we're doing. I don't think that's a big want from our residents, at least in my area, but they do want good, sound decision-making from us to support things like waste management. So I'm going to support where we're at. I do think, to Councillor Measure's part, we got to talk about the head of council. I do think we need a full-time warden, but I think where we're at is where we need to be. So thank you.
Okay, I'll go to Councillor McDonald. And then I've got some suggestions.
Thank you, Warden. I just have a few thoughts. I voted for it to come here today because I believe that it should be decision made by this House and not go to the province beforehand. And that was all discussed on different levels. And so, but I did make it very clear that I don't like the word status quo, because I do believe that if it was status quo, I think that staff could just run this, because we do move forward. We have regional reviews, and any time that I've talked or been in talks with provinces, they look at our municipality sizing more than they have on that we've had talks on our actually county size. I believe that we all have gifts that we bring forward, and I do believe that the warden's job is a full-time job. I have no problem supporting that. I do believe that each gift on 16 municipalities with two representations is great. I think there's continuity, and I do believe that if we're talking in many, many thoughts, and I appreciate all the thoughts that were brought forward, that the warden's job is too busy, so that would make a difference in their municipality. What is the difference of taking it down to 16, leaving the mayor now to bring up all of those and be on? You can talk about having someone else put in there, but then there's no continuity either. So I do believe that the way it runs is run well, but I do believe that, and being honest, I know that we could survive no matter which way we go. But is it the best to do it? I do know that in Essa's case, I don't think you'll get that third majority, because they do believe that the representation is needed for us to have a voice, even though you bring one voice and you can say, okay, you say this or whatever, but we've seen it. We come in here, just like another member said, with one thought, and somebody, it could even be your deputy or someone else's deputy that has a different thought. And we all have gifts, and I think that that is the importance, is to be able to bring those gifts here and be able to find solutions. And I think the biggest thing the province is looking for is efficiencies and partnerships. And I think that we're going as fast as we have in many years, making more partnerships with each other's municipalities. And I think there's lots of room to be able to do that, to save. And if it's about a cost savings, I look at it that it's not enough cost savings, because there's going to be jumps in another position. So to get this much expertise in higher levels of a staffing or whatever, to get all of us and our 16 left, you're not even talking one person as a staff member. So I will be supporting against this at this time, but I'd like to have more information on how the warden would be chosen. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gordon, I think I saw your hand up, and then I've got a suggestion moving forward. Yep.
Thank you very much. I definitely agree that the warden should be a full-time position. The jury's out with me whether it's something that goes out to the wild and is elected, or we do it internally. If we name it internally, just as we do now, the expectation is that warden looks after the needs of the entire county, just as we all are all expected to do the same here, and not just the needs of their home municipality. So I don't feel that the electors have any lesser voice if they don't have a say in who occupies, your seat. The ability for recall, I mean, that's always kind of the nuclear option. If we need to bake that into the conversation, then let's do that. Just in case we end up with some kind of rogue chair or something goes weird. I don't know that it's ever happened before, but I mean, it makes sense to have a clause in there if it should ever occur. But I've said this before in this House, I intend to be supporting a similar motion in my own municipality. We have 9 councillors, and most of our neighbours have anywhere from 7 to 5. And we are a larger urban municipality, but I think we can function quite successfully with 7, which has been the recommendation of the consultants we've paid now twice to give us the same advice. So I would be hard-pressed to argue this in my home municipality and support status quo here. I would look a bit like a hypocrite. So that's one of the reasons. Also, I believe that this House could function quite well with the recommendation that we've looked at. It is change. People are change-averse. Toronto didn't fall apart. We can't always wave around the creature of the province argument, because we've seen the province waffle and walk back and then walk backs. When it comes to downsizing, the province now has more cabinet ministers than any government ever has in the province. So growth and bloat, that's not something I think the province would be throwing at us as an argument. In my conversations with the Premier, fishing for funds for a study to look at amalgamations in North Simcoe, not just ramming people together, but to actually study what it would look like, where are the efficiencies and synergies. That's a pretty expensive project. The province at this time has no desire or will, this is coming right from the Premier, to modify, alter, squish, disband, or otherwise mess with municipal governments. I think they put their finger in that mousetrap and got the bruises to show for it. We saw that with Peel. But the Premier did say to me, even though there's no money, they're not going to outwardly support amalgamations. He said this is exactly what we should be looking at, and he's expecting all the mayors in the province to look closely at their neighbours and look for those efficiencies without the province having to do it for you. So there doesn't seem to be any interest right now from the province. I don't think we have to be afraid of the province coming and making any violent changes in the county. I mean, maybe I'm reading the tea leaves wrong, but this is coming right from the big guy. But the expectation is that we do that ourselves. And I think this report and recommendation, it's kind of long overdue. I am going to support this. I think we could survive quite nicely. It would mean restructuring and maybe shedding some committee work. We don't know what we don't know yet. But I definitely agree that the warden needs to be full-time. I'm not fixated on that it needs to be something that has to be campaigned on and run in the wild. But, I'll defer to my peers. And I do support the reduction in size, mainly because I intend to argue this very same rationale in my home municipality, and I couldn't in good faith support it here and then argue it there. And I do believe it is the best thing for us.
So with that, maybe what I'll do, Jonathan, do you want to read? I'm seeing unanimous agreement here for a full-time warden, so I'm wondering if we pull that as a separate motion, vote on that, and then we'll come back and look at the reduction to, I guess we'd say now 16, or status quo, which would be now we would by default be a 33. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. So here's a motion we have prepared. Go ahead, Patrick.
Thank you, Warden Clark. So with this motion, it would include that the governance item, the report, still be received, that council support the creation of a full-time warden. So the change to the number, the composition of council has been removed here. And my reading of the legislation is that if you look to pursue a full-time warden, that would still require basically a public notice of council's intention to pass a bylaw to change the composition of council. And it would also still require that staff schedule a public meeting for council to consider a draft bylaw to change the composition of council, and that the notice also be provided to the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing in the form of a letter.
So does everybody understand that? So if this carries and no change, we'd be looking at a 33-person council. You'd have your 32 members plus a full-time warden. If we do the reduction, you would now be looking at a 7. And then we could still vote on whether we want to reduce or status quo. Oh, we got a clarification, yes?
I was asking for a clarification as well. So does that require a triple majority then?
Yes, it will. No? Oh, go ahead, Patrick.
Thank you, Warden Clark. So I'm doing a bit of interpretation quickly here, but my understanding is that the change to just the full-time warden would not require a triple majority. So under the legislation, I have it up here from the report. So Section 219 speaks to before passing a bylaw described in Section 218, which includes a change to how the head of council is selected. That does require the municipality to give notice and pass a bylaw and hold a public meeting, as I said. But under subsection 2, a bylaw described in 218 making changes described in 218 2A, B, or C, that's when triple majority is triggered. So looking at that under subsection 218 2A, B, and C, this here, to my reading, does not apply if it's just the head of council. But if you look to change the broader composition of council, being the number of council going down to a 16 or 17, that's when triple majority is then triggered as well.
So going to 33 wouldn't trigger it because you're just talking the head of council. Clear enough? Now, do you have a does that answer yours, Councillor? Yeah, now, you have a comment now, Councillor Fryer?
So we're going to put that on the floor and then we can speak to it? Yeah.
Yeah. So I would get a mover Deputy Warden, no, I need a mover and a seconder. We'll put it on the floor right now for discussion. Are you moving it? All right, well, we'll go to Councillor Smith and the Deputy Warden then. All right.
Thank you, Your Worship. You know, I used to be a big proponent of reducing county council. And then as I listened to the arguments here today and some of the confusion and concern, quite frankly, I'm not so sure that we shouldn't be voting on anything today and we shouldn't be referring this back for more information. You know, some members of this council, either for or against the change, I think have brought up some very strong arguments both ways. And although I 100% believe that the warden's position should be a full-time position, as should, I think, the mayor's position in every municipality in this day and age, I would fully support that. But to make that decision today alone, to go out to have public meetings, to do all of that process, to then have to move forward to do that, probably again, should we decide to make another change with the composition of council with respect to numbers, I think is kind of redundant. I think we should be able to do this all at once. And you know, my friend Mayor Measures brings up a very good point of not having a recall if the warden is going to be at large, and dependent, especially if that is going to be done through this council alone and not by the public. I think it's very important then to have the option of a recall. But having said that, I just see too many questions still up in the air here with respect to how this would work and what is best. I'm not concerned about what the province will or won't do. The province is going to do what the province is going to do. And you know, in municipal government, you learn to adjust to that. It is what we do. So I have no concern about that. And you know, I've said it in this house and many times before, there's two things we all hate: change and the way things are. And what's most important is that we get it right and that we don't rush to make any decision on this, although I think it's high time we've looked at it and we looked at it in depth. And I know other past councils have done the same. I've been part of one of those councils, but I don't think we've gone deep enough. And the fact that here we are now going around this at the fourth time or the fourth council that we can recollect, I'm seeing 5 and 6 maybe, tells me that clearly we haven't looked at this deeply enough, or a decision, you know, probably would have been made maybe in a different direction. So I would recommend that we refer this back to staff for more information, more conversation perhaps at the government committee, more conversation perhaps in this house in its totality. And that we make sure that whatever we decide here on behalf of the citizens of the county of Simcoe is for the greater good, and we make the best and right decision the first time. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor. One thing I can say, and it's been discussed, there is no recall. If a warden's elected at large, there is no recall. If the warden is elected by this House, there is no recall. Elections Canada, you're elected for the term. That I can't answer right now because we have researched that. There is no way to recall through the way the laws are set up today. I think Deputy Warden, yes, and then Councillor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just looking for clarity on the change to the composition of council. What is the deadline in order, if this council is going to make a decision, if we are going to choose to make whatever the change is, when do we have to make it by in accordance with the Municipal Act?
Go ahead, Patrick.
Through you, Warden Clark. So basically, the change would have to be done, and if it includes triple majority, that would also have to be completed by basically January 1st, 2026, being the year of the election. It has to be completed and in place prior to that. And any change to the composition wouldn't actually take effect until the following election, so November 2026, around there.
Okay, lots of hands. So Councillor Fryer, then Van Stavern, and I'll write them down here. Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Warden Clark. And this is in regards to the full-time warden. I don't, everybody's entitled to an opinion, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful to anybody. I really appreciate the comments that I've heard, actually. And I think every council, as a county council in their term, should consider this. I think it's something that you should do as an exercise, so I take that on. We've talked about not wanting to, no one likes change and are adverse to it, but the counter to that for me is if it's not broken, don't fix it. But in the case of the full-time warden or the work that the warden's doing now, which we all recognize as full-time, I talked about is there a way to enhance the deputy warden position to help with that situation for the warden going forward, and certainly no disrespect to Deputy Warden Coughlin, because I think she does a tremendous job. But are there other aspects that could be added to the workload of the deputy warden to assist the current warden situation and help reduce the workload? So that's one of the things that I would like to get more information about. Is there a way that the two roles can serve that purpose? And therefore, I'd support the idea of referral at this point in time to try to get a little more information rather than voting on that. At this point in time, I wouldn't support the vote as it stands because, as it's mentioned throughout, the devil's in the details, and that kind of implies that it all can be worked out, and I don't necessarily see that could be the so I can't support that singular motion as it stands, and would rather see it referred. So thank you.
Okay, Councillor Van Staveren.
Thank you, Your Worship. The concern I would have, I agree we need a full-time person up front there. The concern I have is the ability for recall. Is it in our Constitution that we cannot change the description of the warden to a chairperson or of some other description where they are appointed, giving voting privileges in the case of a tie breaking when we're dealing with 16, but for the rest they are appointed by council as a job, not as a political position?
Patrick.
So I think the ability to sort of define or limit the position of the head of council is somewhat restricted, as it's more or less set out under the Municipal Act. So to look at the position as more kind of like an employee rather than a member of council, they would be like a bona fide member of council.
So you do have, when we were looking at the weighted vote, the suggestion would have been whatever the lowest number of votes that any mayor has at the table would be assigned to the warden. So it'd be 3, I guess, in the case of a weighted vote is what we'd be looking at. I had Councillor Anderson, and then there was another hand at Cabral. Okay, Anderson, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I stated this when we had the workshop, that no level of government, provincially or federally, elects a prime minister or premier. They are a serving member of the House. And I stand behind that comment today that we should be electing our own peers to be a warden. And I don't think, I haven't served as a warden and I'm looking for expertise for those who have, but I don't see there to be a detriment to your home municipality if you're being a warden. You are highlighted more at the county and throughout the entire municipalities of the 16 municipalities. And I know there's the workload and the requirements to go with that, and you may not have your full-time or full attention to your municipal matters, but we also have council members. And I think there's lots of support, whether it's a lower tier municipal council that can support that, or whether it's county council that can support that. I don't believe it's appropriate that we appoint someone that's not a member of this House. No other, like I said, no other level of government does that. And I think it's important that we maintain that continuity here. So to the motion here, I don't support, if you want to call it a full-time, fine, but I still believe it's a member of this House.
Okay, Councillor Norcross, and then I've got a whole list of folks here.
Thanks, Your Worship. Just following up on what Councillor Smith was saying, when I walked into this House today, I had my mind made up. I participated before in doing this. I know how I voted last time. I read the report, and I was pretty convinced. But after listening to the comments that I'm hearing today, Actually, I've got some questions of my own that I need to answer, and I'm not going to take the House's time by having everybody sit through what I'd like to know. I'll contact the CAO and yourself directly. So if Councillor Smith was to put that motion on the floor, even if it was just to go for another 2 weeks so that we could get more information, or those that want more information, I think that would be appropriate, because the decision we're going to make, it's going to last the county hopefully for a very long time. So I want to get as much information as I can. So I'd look to Councillor Smith. You eloquently spoke, so if you move it, I would second it. Thank you.
Deferral or referral?
I think the intent was to refer it back.
Refer it back.
Clarify if it's being referred to governance committee or to staff.
Okay, Patrick, go ahead.
So I believe what you're requesting would be a motion to refer the item. And could you clarify, would you be intending to have it referred back to governance committee for further review to come back to council, or referred back to staff for further review, in which case it would come back to council?
Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would refer this back to Governance Committee and rely upon their thoughts and process with respect to what they require from staff, and then to bring that back to this House.
Right. So then I'm going to want emails coming in from everybody with your questions so that we can deal with them when we get to governance, because a lot of questions on the floor, we'll try and get answers. What Patrick said earlier, what we presented, we don't believe needs the triple majority when you're just appointing the head of the House, but we will get official answers on all of those questions coming back. So you'll second that deferral? So then that's what I will put on the floor. Moved by Councillor Smith, second by Councillor Norcross. Defer it back. Get your questions in the form of emails so that to the governance committee. So I guess
Clarify, I think it's being referred.
referred, not deferred. Referred. It's a refer. And get your questions into Patrick, and we will get those questions to the government committee and try and have them in the wrap-up. So on the referral, then that's what's on the floor. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed of any? No, that looks like the referral's carried, so it will go back, and we will get those questions. So thank you. We expected a bit of debate on this issue. Give me a second to unlock my computer again. So presentations and considerations of county officers report, we have none. Hang on here. Motions which notice is given, we have none. Notice of the motion, we have none. No closed session, no bills. So announcements, I'll start off that the Economic Subcommittee will be meeting today after Committee of the Whole. And we'll be reviewing the Tourism Simcoe County's plan for culture, which is part of the county's wider destination stewardess plan. These tourism planning documents are important to our region because more and more our municipalities are relying on the county's tourism expertise to help develop local plans, driving local regional tourism, which in turn is a major economic driver. This announcement is just to note, and there are copies of the Tourism Simcoe County's plan for culture on the table inside the members' lounge. So I encourage everybody to grab a copy of that. Any other announcements? Councillor Van Stavern.
Thanks very much, Your Worship. And it's a sort of a piggyback onto what you're talking about. I've had the opportunity to drop a brochure on every person's desk in this council chamber, and we just welcome everybody. We have got a phenomenal schedule coming up for the small hall festivals, September, October, and November. And take a look at it. There's something there for everybody. It's a very diverse thing we've put together, and it's been built on for years and years. Second thing is, in 2 weeks from now, we are going to be having the Great Northern Exhibition in Clearview Township, Collingwood, Stayner, Duntroon. Please keep that on your sites as well. It's a phenomenal family event day for 3 days, and we welcome everybody to our community. Thank you.
Okay, Deputy Warden.
Thank you, Your Worship. This Saturday, Springwater is hosting our 30th anniversary. We have talent from across Springwater, and it's pretty exciting that we have 3 performers. We have Graham Scott Fleming, Dana Reed, and new and upcoming artists as well on our stage. So it will be highlighting Springwater talent, and they are phenomenal. So it's a concert. It's free to everyone. There's something there for everyone. Lots of blow-up, what are the bouncy castles and people walking around on stilts and all that fun stuff. So there's something for everyone. Please come and celebrate with us.
Okay, thank you. Any other now? Councillor Bell.
It's the Ramona Fall Fair this weekend, so we have horseshoes. It's always sold out Friday nights, horse pulls on Saturday.
Thank you. Any other announcements? Councillor Gordon.
Thank you very much. A couple of announcements. This Friday is our second annual Heritage Boat Show at the Huronia Museum. It's a bigger, better boat show than even last year. We're counting on good weather, and that's followed at 1 o'clock, and 4 o'clock the Huronia Museum is hosting a fish fry dinner. That's locally caught fish, so if you like fish fry, come on to Midland for that, the Huronia Museum, right by our YMCA in Little Lake Park. And then, of course, this Sunday, September 15th, Terry Fox Run, major charity looking to defeat cancer in all its forms. This is also Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. If you can imagine, that's even more poignant, and flags are being raised around our county in honor of that. But Terry Fox Run is September 15th, Sunday. Most communities are hosting it either in their community or nearby. So for those of you who would like to support this amazing initiative, either by just donating to the cause or come out and walk, bike, rollerblade, whatever, anything you've got, any way you can move to go through the course. It's very rewarding, and again, we're hoping on good weather. But that's Sunday, September 15th, all throughout Canada, but specifically, let's check out Simcoe County.
Thank you. Councillor Evans.
Thank you, Warden. I appreciate the opportunity. Just two quick notes, just carrying on from Councillor Gordon's comments. I just want to make sure everybody's aware that North Simcoe Terry Fox Run will be held starting at 9 a.m. in Perkinsfield and on County Road 6. So look forward to everybody being there. I believe Mayor Gordon's going to be on his spiffy new bike with his wife Donna, so they'll be tough to keep up to him, but hey, if you come out and have a good time with that. My second announcement, and this is more of a thank you to those of you that were involved yesterday with the 19th annual Warden's Golf Tournament. I want to pass along a big thank you, first of all, to Warden and Deputy Warden, your staff, all the staff that's set up. I know that Jen and the crew were running around. Great day, beautiful course, Braystone, thank you for having us. All the sponsors that were involved, great gift bags. I don't know what I'm going to do with my aloe candle. If anybody would like that, they're welcome to have that. But great day, and actually, kind of cute. We were a little bit late getting teed off, and the rain came down, and then we went out and started golfing, and we stopped for lunch, and Jen told me, well, you can't sit down. You got to eat and you got to go, because we're going to be late. You're not going to finish golfing until about 7 o'clock. And then came forth the supreme or sublime confirmation of the warden's power that he called for a thunderstorm and lightning at about 4:30 to get us all off the course all on time. So everybody left at 5 o'clock. So great day. Thank you very much. Look forward to next year, and thanks again. Appreciate it.
Thank you for that. And even though we blew the horn, some diehards here stayed out and golfed to the end of the course. So go ahead, Lynn, and you survived the lightning and
Thank you. It was a wonderful day and an absolutely beautiful course in Ormadonte. Very much enjoyed. I'd never been there before, but yes, when I heard the second horn, I thought that meant all clear. So the Innisfil team stayed out and finished the course. So we should get a prize for that, don't you think?
I'll get you a nice new county pen. All right, there.
We want to get to the bar first, that's why.
Thank you. It did go well. I don't have a final number on what we raised, but and the money's going towards Scanlon Creek, which is a new center that the Lake Simcoe Foundation is building. So, Councillor Greenlaw.
Thank you very much. I just want to make everyone aware that this Friday, Saturday is the 170th year of the Oro World Fair. So anyone who wants to come out, it's put on by our Agricultural Society, and it's a great time. So thank you.
Any other announcements? Yes, Councillor Snell.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, this weekend as well, so much great activity happening in our county, is the Wasaga Beach Blues. So if you are a blues fan, you like live music, it's located at Stonebridge Town Center, which is where our Walmart is. 2 huge stages, international acts, great VIP beer garden, and it goes rain or shine. So we definitely invite everyone. And on behalf of Mayor Smith and our council, we thank the members of this house who came out to join us for a sand-blasted experience of Tom Cochrane on Labor Day weekend as we closed off and celebrated summer. It was a fantastic event with thousands of attendees who tolerated the very windy conditions coming off the bay, and highly recommend Tom Cochrane if you're looking for great Canadian talent for any of your events. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you. Boy, it's been a busy time. Councillor Norcross.
Thanks, Your Worship. Beaton Fall Fair, 167th this weekend. All I can say is we need judges for pies. I got lots of looks now, don't I? And we still have a smash-up derby. Thank you, Your Worship.
Okay, Councillor Fryer.
Thank you, Warden. And I'll begin by turning around and thanking Wasaga Beach for the invite to the sandblasting exercise. I give them full kudos on being able to pull that event off that day. That shows the hardiness of the Wasaga Beach community and council. So congratulations on being able to run the event, and thank you for the invite. I also mentioned that the Great Northern Exhibition is taking place on September the 20th, 21st, and 22nd in Collingwood in Clearview Township, actually. We hope that people can get out and enjoy all the festivities there. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cox, and then Councillor Leduc.
I'm giving you an early warning on this. Our fair is the Coldwater Fall Fair's on the weekend of the 27th, 28th, and 29th. You're all welcome to come to it. If you'd like to come to the fair in March, and it'd be lovely because it's a PD day. We can't have any children. So we're a little short on bodies, so if you would like to. We do have the Smash 'em Up Derby on the Friday night, and I've been hearing lots of things about grandchildren. So there's a lovely baby show on Saturday morning, and it's not all about, you know, who's the cutest and the best. It's very good. I run it, so it's very good, I'll tell you. So anyway, just prepare yourselves. There's a tractor pull and truck pull, so I will again warn you at the end of the month before, but it's a wonderful fair, and it's a typical rural fall fair. Lots of exhibitors, lots of quilts, lots of home preserves, all kinds of things.
Thank you. Councillor Leduc.
I just wanted to extend my kudos to both the mayor and deputy mayor of Wasaga for that wonderful event on the beach. It was fantastic. Tom Cochran did an excellent job. I was there in that sandstorm. It was wonderful, though. I had a great time. Lots of people showed up. If you ever get a chance, go to it for sure. It's wonderful to be in Wasaga for the day. We had a great day there. We enjoyed the whole town. So thank you for the invite, and we did enjoy it, even though it was windy. We can't control wind, but we sure had a great time at that concert for sure. Thank you.
Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, everybody, for your wonderful comments. And although I'm sure Deputy Mayor Snell and I would like to take all the credit, it's important to point out that these events are not easy to pull off, as you know. You've all tried these in your own communities, but when you get under these circumstances and these conditions, it was 100% the work of our staff in Wasaga Beach. They are phenomenal. We're extremely proud of them, and we thank them for all they do, just like the county staff here and in all our communities. But we couldn't do it without those folks. So thank you, and it was a great time. And Tom Cochran, 71 years old. You'd think he was 50, and boy, oh boy, at one point we thought they had lit up a smoke machine on the stage, and we've got video of this, and it wasn't smoke, it was sand. They were literally being blasted, and they didn't miss a beat. They kept going right to the end. So it was a great time, and glad everyone could make it. Thank you, Your Worship.
Perfect. Any other announcements? Boy, it's going to be a busy month, folks. So I'll look for the confirmatory bylaw. Councillor Norcross.
Thank you, Your Worship. That bill number 7088-24 be enacted as a bylaw of the County of Simcoe, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Burkett, please.
Everybody's heard it. All in favor? That is carried. I'd look for a motion that the September 10th, 2024 meeting of the County Council be adjourned at, and it is 10:11. Moved by Councillor Measure, second by Councillor Fryer. All in favor? That is carried. So we will break now and maybe reconvene at 10:20. Okay, if we could get ready to go, folks. Okay, so I want to welcome our city reps as thank you, Doug. And I'd like to welcome our city reps now, and I'll look for, I guess we better do attendance here, Patrick.
Thank you, Warden Clark. So all members of council are still present with the exception of Councillor Michael Smith, with alternate Councillor Henry Sander in attendance for Councillor Smith. And for the city reps, we have Aurelia Councillor Durnford in attendance, Aurelia Councillor Follis in attendance. We have Aurelia Mayor McIsaac in attendance. Barrie Councillor Hamilton is absent. Barrie Councillor Negusi is present. Barrie Mayor Nuttall is absent, and Barrie Councillor Riepma is present. You have your quorum.
Thank you. Now I'll look for approval of the agenda. Councillor Dolan.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Prost that the agenda for the September 10th, 2024 meeting of Committee of the Whole be approved.
And there is one change in the in-camera item. 17.3 has been pulled, so it's not on the agenda at all. We've got new information on that one, so just 17.1 and 17.2 in the in-camera. 17.3 is being pulled. So any other questions on the agenda? All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Disclosure of pecuniary interest in any member of council. Not seeing any, but if you find yourself in that situation later, please declare it. Presentations and delegations, we have none, so we will go to Councillor Cox or Chair Cox for performance management.
Good morning. 5.1, Matthews Construction Project Temporary Museum Closure. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Deputy Warden Coughlin, seconded by Councillor Measures. That item CCW 2024-243 dated September 10th, 2024 regarding the temporary closure of the museum during the Matthews project construction be received. Anyone have any questions, comments? Okay, seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you, and then I'll go to Chair Leduc for Human Services.
Thank you, Warden. We're at Section 6, the consent agenda. So does anybody want under the consent agenda, we have the draft minutes of the Housing Corporation Board of August 2024. Anybody want those minutes pulled for further conversation? Seeing none, so the following consent item, having been given due consideration, be received, and I have that, if you don't mind, moved by Councillor Follis from Aurelia and Councillor Negusi from Barrie. All right, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. We're into Human Services, Children's Services. We're at 7.1, Child Care Funding Update. Anybody like this pulled for further conversation? It's an update on the funding formulas moving forward in 2025. So, anybody want an explanation? Would you like to? I'm going to turn it over to our General Manager.
Thank you, Chair Leduc. This report just simply walks us through the new funding formula that the province has released for our child care providers. The funding formula comes into action on January 1st, 2025, so we had very little time to roll out the way the funding will be calculated. So we're looking to use some public-facing tools and resources to educate providers who are part of the Canada Early Wide Learning Childcare Program. So these are the $10 a day, like that's the federal $10 a day program. So those will be online calculators and tools to allow providers to understand how their funding formula will now be calculated, as well as a lot of resources and connection points. And I know that we're going to roll out a series of information sessions and other ways that providers can engage on questions and answering periods. So this report right now is just requesting us to accept the administrative dollars to do all of that work that came with the guideline release. Again, also required for us to fully spend by the end of the year. So this is just a transaction requiring it. It does flag in the report one slight item that those who are not part of or did not opt in or apply for space under the new program that are currently funded under the old model will also see their funding come to an end or significantly reduced through attrition of programming. There's only 25 providers out of about 200 that are impacted. And there'll be a further report once we've connected and communicated those impacts to those providers coming back to council, as well as demonstrating all of the new funding formula strategies in greater detail once they're developed.
Thank you for that. I've got Councillor Dolan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you to Jim Fayez-Baguette. So out of those 25 that have chosen not to sign up for the CWELC, would it be possible for you to reach out to any of us who might be getting a phone call from one of those providers if they're in our municipality, so that we could just have a heads up to know and just be able to either give them key messages or send them back through you to help them understand better the outcome and how that attrition would take place?
Through you, Chair Leduc. Yes, we will be providing details on the 25 and how they map out across the county in terms of each town or municipality. And Director Zurcher will also be creating like a memo with the breakdown. We do recognize that within the 25, there are some who opted out and some who are attempting to opt in or have tried. So we have prioritized those who are trying to get in on future space as it becomes available, so that to try to minimize minimize the impact. However, they still have to meet all the other criteria for the new program. So while we're working that out, that memo will kind of walk through their options and how to engage the county in terms of like problem solving some of the impacts as they come along.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay. Councillor Fryer.
Thank you, Chair, and I appreciate the clarity provided by the General Manager on that. I know in Collingwood's case, I think we had a lack of uptake, actually, and it's good to hear that anybody who's interested in coming in is still going to be somewhat contacted and be aware of the changes. So thank you for clarifying that.
Thank you. Yeah, this is a difficult one, and it is about childcare, so make sure we reach out to our daycares, and we'll see the report coming from General Manager Fayez-Baguette to give us more update on which ones didn't. And it's difficult. The county didn't get enough seats. We want more seats, so we'll continue to fight with the province and the feds for more seats. All right. Any further comments or questions on this? Seeing none. So can I have it moved by Councillor Dolan, seconded by Councillor Miskinen? You okay with that? Thank you. That the item CCW 2024-226, dated September 10, 2024, regarding the child care funding update be received, and that the strategies and approaches as generally outlined in the item CCW 2024-2026 or 226 be approved. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. We're into Section 8, Human Services, Community Services. We have 8.1, 2025 Social and Community Investment Update. Comments or questions on this report? All right, seeing none, then can I have, Councillor Gordon, would you move it? Councillor Anderson, second? Okay. That item CCW 2024-219, dated September 10, 2024, regarding planning for the 2025 Social and Community Investment Fund be received, and that the Social and Community Investment Fund renewals, as attached in Schedule 1 and as outlined in item CCW 2024-219, be approved, and that staff be delegated authority to renew 2023-2024 Social and Community Investment Fund agreements where merited by the criteria, and that the Warden and County Clerk execute the 2025 Social and Community Investment Fund agreements for micro-grants from any amount remaining in the Social and Community Investment Fund for the 2024 and 2025 allocations, with a balance of up to $200,000. Annual reserve to make a balance of $200,000 annually reserved to make community development investments as assessed in this report, and that any annual unspent or returned municipal homelessness funds be transferred to the Social Services Reserve for future needs in homelessness and poverty mitigation. Everybody understand it? I have mover seconder. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Other matters for consideration. Would anybody? Sorry?
Just to council, today is Director Laura Lynn Johnson's last week here, and this will be her last meeting at council. She's seconded from the city in Toronto and returning back to the city, so I just want to recognize her. Thank you.
Thank you for your services. I apologize for that. And thank you, General Manager, for bringing that forward. Okay, any matters for consideration? Any other matters for consideration? Okay, seeing none, I turn back to you, Warden.
Thank you, and I want to thank the city reps. I know you waited patiently out there for us to get through our county council meeting, and it seems these were important items on the agenda. Thank you for coming to deal with them. And with that, I will appoint Council Chair Dolan for corporate services.
Thank you. I was going to say, I don't know how anybody could go back to Toronto after being here, but she's left already. So you could pass that on, GM. Thank you. So we're on item 10, which is planning, and 10.1 is a request for approval of the Town of Collingwood official plan. Any questions or comments on this item? So if I could ask for a mover and a seconder, please, Councillor Hamlin and Councillor Fryer. And could I also ask waive reading, particularly of the non-decisions? Is everybody okay with that? All right. All those in favor of the recommendation, that is carried. Next is item 10.2, priority project resourcing, staffing surge capacity to deliver strategic housing and economic investment opportunities. Any questions or comments on this staff report? Go ahead, Councillor Snell.
Thank you through the chair to GM Wilcox. I just had a question in regards to the report asking for $500,000 over 3 years coming from DC's application fees and the general contingency fund. Do you have a financial breakdown of where you see it coming from those three sources, specifically in regards to the contingency reserve? Thank you.
Through the chair, I'll let the other GM start, and I can weigh in.
Thank you. Through the chair. At this point, we didn't offer a breakdown because I think the funding allocation would depend on what resource we needed. If it was specific to a particular application that attracted development charges, we would use development charges. If it was a little bit more generic, we would use a contingency fund. So I think at this point, we didn't want to attract a tax rate increase to pay for this surge capacity, but we recognize those three buckets of funding would be most appropriately used. It would depend on how those resources are allocated, though.
GM Wilcox, did you have something to add?
No, one small thing, we would definitely, if there's a choice, we would prioritize where areas that would not impact our reserves first. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions or comments on this item? Councillor Cox.
Yeah, through the chair, just wondering if you find that it's not enough, so are you going to come back, or you just, because it could not be enough? I mean, you're looking at a pretty big scope here. No offense.
Through the chair, absolutely. If we find it's not enough, you'd see me again.
Okay, no, but you know where I'm going with this. Like, I mean, there's a lot of need out there, especially with Honda, and there's other municipalities who are in the same surge areas. And I just wondered if you thought that was going to be enough, or is it all right to just start with that and we'll see what happens?
Through the chair, we think this is enough to respond to some of the immediate needs that we know of now. And as I mentioned in the report, the intention is not to fill gaps for existing day-to-day business. It's about responding to strategic and countywide initiatives such as Honda, such as employment at the airport, and such as meeting the housing target that, is proving to be a bit of a challenge for unique policies and programs that are being implemented across the county.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else questions or comments on this report? Seeing none, mover and a seconder, please. So Councillor McDonald and Councillor McClellan, that item CCW 2024-255, dated September the 10th, 2024, regarding staffing surge capacity for strategic housing and investment priorities be received, and that staff be authorized to secure the necessary resources to deliver various strategic growth-related initiatives as generally outlined in CCW 2024-255. All those in favor of the recommendation, any opposed? That's carried. Next is item 11, that's corporate services engineering, and item 11.1, which is Township of Clearview intersection of County Road 9 and Centerline Road all-way stop control. Any questions or comments on this item? Councillor Measures.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. First of all, I very much appreciate the County of Simcoe staff for preparing a very full report that also included some of the mentions about the warrants for why intersections should or should not have four-way stops installed. I do appreciate also that the staff did find that there is a warrant to have this intersection as a four-way stop, and I would point out that it's very clearly a difficult intersection with a lot of, let's say, visitors to our communities in that area of our county, as they have been following their GPS and diverting off of the beautiful County Road 42, which does in fact take them directly to where they need to go, but the GPS has been rerouting them over to County Road or to Centerline Road. And so this intersection has seen numerous accidents and where vehicles have in fact come to the full stop, which is on the Centerline Road side, and then they just proceed through as if it's a four-way stop. And so we have some cameras that our municipality installed, and we've shared that data with the County of Simcoe engineering staff. And I appreciate that this report is quite full and has good information. I would suggest that this is a great move for us to ask the county to create this four-way stop, but however, it will probably not change anything to do with bad driver behavior, which we all see in our own communities and on our roads. And so it's a great hope that we can perhaps see some better drivers out there who actually understand what signs and why the procedures are set up to keep them safe and everyone else. So I appreciate the work, and I ask the House to support this recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Measures. Other questions or comments on this always stop? Councillor Leduc.
Just a quick one, and I know it came up at the governance meeting. Did we look at reducing the speeds coming to that sign? Because it's an 80 kilometers, is it not? And
through the chair, at this point, we're going to retain the existing speed. Sizing of the signage would be in accordance with MTO standards and things like that. We do feel that the four-way stop would reduce the number of unexplained occurrences that we've been witnessing over the last couple of years. We did implement a couple of measures over the last few months, including signage on Centerline Road indicating that through traffic did not stop. We've witnessed some of the video surveillance, which is perplexing to see why people are pulling out in front of moving traffic. We think this will satisfy that, and no need at this point to reduce the speed limit.
Any other questions or comments on this item? Councillor Laux.
Thank you, through the chair. I understand what's going on there, and the collision rate is obviously astronomical, but it's unfortunate that residents of the area are going to pay the price for having to stop there because of weekend travelers that don't know how to drive. So I believe, unfortunately, the residents are going to suffer from having to stop on County Road 9, which is a major road going through that area. And unfortunately, I'm not sure which way to support or not support this. I don't like usually putting up more stop signs. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Laux. GM Elliott.
Thank you. And through the chair, I would agree, and I'm certain that our road engineer would agree, that the goal of the county road is to move people safely and quickly. I think the 200 plus emails from local residents that I received would suggest that they're going to be okay with this.
Thank you for that. Any other questions or comments. The only thing that gets more conversation going other than waste is traffic. A mover and a seconder, please, for this recommendation. Moved by Councillor Measures, seconded by Councillor Cabral. That item CCW 2024-230 regarding the implementation of an all-way stop control at County Road 9 and Centerline Road be received, and that all-way stop control be implemented at the intersection of County Road 9 and Centerline Road, and that consolidated traffic bylaws that the consolidated traffic bylaw 6609 be amended and the necessary bylaw be presented to County Council. All those in favor of the recommendation? Any opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Item 11.2, Enbridge Franchise Agreement. Questions or comments on this one? Jim Elliott, could you just perhaps provide, because it is unusual for us not to agree with renewing a model franchise agreement, if you could just highlight why. I know it's in the staff report.
Thank you. Through the chair. The franchise agreement was first implemented more than 20 years ago, and it was up for a standard renewal. Obviously, things have changed over time. We've looked at that agreement and felt that there's some elements of that, including things like removal of abandoned infrastructure. There's lacking clarity around timing for Enbridge to respond to requests to relocate infrastructure. And it, in our opinion, puts a financial burden on the county for infrastructure that's not ours. So we're not happy with some elements of the agreement, and although we've tried to work with Enbridge, they've not agreed to this. So we're asking for council to support us in looking at avenues to speak our position on this one, which would result in us making an appearance likely before the Ontario Energy Board. It shouldn't be an onerous, but I think even if it doesn't result in change, expressing our views and opinions to the board is something we think is important to do at this point in time.
Thank you, Jim Elliott. And is there anyone, I know there's other municipalities who are also taking this route. I wonder if there's opportunity to work in collaboration with other municipalities.
Thank you. And great question. I raised this with some of my colleagues through the Regional Public Works Commissioners of Ontario. And many of them, although they didn't really like it, they didn't feel that they wanted to fight it. There's a few that are contemplating next steps. So whether or not we go hand in hand, that's a bit unclear at this point. But I think it's fair to say there was consensus that they didn't feel it was a fair agreement for municipalities. Like I say, the date or a hearing before the OEB would not be particular onerous. Whether we did that in conjunction with others or not is not really a significant factor. But it is fair to say that others are in the same position as we are as a county that's concerned about this.
Thank you, Jim Elliott. Any other questions or comments on this item? Could I ask for a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Norris and Councillor Miskimings. That item CCW 2024-234 dated September the 10th, 2024 regarding the Ontario Energy Board and Enbridge franchise agreement be received, and that staff provide notice in writing to Enbridge Gas that the county is not in agreement with renewing the model franchise agreement without amendments. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Are there any other items, matters for consideration for corporate services today? Councillor Bell.
Just wondering if staff have had any feedback from the lights in Washago on 169. We've had some concerns from residents. The backlog through the summer months, we're talking about 3 or 4 kilometers of, it goes all the way out to Fairgrounds Road, that's where I live. You have to go the back way to get out. But not only that, people are then getting to the lights and speeding through there because we have a 50, a 60, a 70, then an 80, all within 1.5 kilometers. And I just think that maybe we could have staff do a report on that at some point and look at what we can do.
Jim Elliott?
Through the chair, I might ask Director Mealy to speak to this if he's got any insights that I might not be aware of. Thanks.
Director Mealy?
Thank you. And through the chair, I find it a little surprising. Actually, I was in Washago a few weeks ago and speaking with Severn Township staff about the operation of that intersection, and they didn't raise any concerns, but I'll certainly look into it and see if there's some information that we can report back.
Thank you, Director.
Sorry, if I can follow.
Go ahead.
I think it's often on long weekends and Fridays especially. If you go Fridays between 4 and 7 o'clock, it's literally 5 kilometers of backup, and people can't get out of Rama Road. So just, I think it's about timing when you see it, and when you live there, you tend to see it more. Right?
Fair enough. I'm just going to suggest maybe we'll look into some time of week timing for the traffic signals and probably address some of those issues.
Thank you, Director. Thank you, Councillor. So that is it for corporate services. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Chair Dolan. And now if Chair Cox could take us home with performance management.
Okay. 13.1, Association of Municipalities, AMO Conference. Mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor McDonald, second by Councillor Van Staveren. That item CCW 2024-242 dated September 10th, 2024 regarding the Association of Municipalities of Ontario AMO 2024 Annual Conference be received. Any questions or comments? Seeing none. Oh, sorry. Councillor Dolan.
Thank you. I just wanted to take a moment and say thank you to everybody who was at the conference who I know most of you were in the county caucus, so but thanks for everyone who took the time to vote. There is very good representation from Simcoe County on the AMO board. In fact, in the small urban caucus, there are 5 seats. 4 of them are from Simcoe County. So if you include the elected or the elected positions, there's Councillor Doherty from Collingwood, Councillor Duhaney from Bradford, and myself. And then the staff position is the Deputy CAO from Aurelia. CAO Sindhu is the staff person. And of course, GM Wilcox is the past Secretary Treasurer. So lots of representation from this House. We're going to have to work hard to make sure that small urbans across Ontario feel supported and that it's not all about Simcoe County. But I just wanted to say a special thank you to anyone who either passed on a good word or voted. And I was elected by my peers to chair the Small Urban Caucus for another year. So I'm looking forward to that as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Dolan. All in favor? Carried. 14.1, Municipal Funding Agreement on the Canada Community Building Fund. Mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Anderson, second by Councillor Fowler. That item CCW 2024-241 dated September 10th, 2024 regarding municipal funding agreement on the Canada Community Building Fund be received, and that the warden and the clerk be authorized to enter into the municipal funding agreement for the Canada Community Building Fund with the Association of Municipalities of Ontario as outlined in item CCW 2024-241, and that the necessary bylaw be presented to County Council. Questions? Yes, Councillor Dolan.
Sorry, this is the last time I'll talk today. Madam Chair, but I'm sure you sometimes roll your eyes and get tired of me talking AMO, but this is a great example of advocacy across the province that works so well for Ontario. And we work very hard, despite the provincial government wanting us not to sign this agreement with the federal government. And it's predictable, it's long-term, you can build it up, and it's fairly flexible as far as funding goes. And it's done at an admin fee that is less than half of what it would be if it was done by another level of government. And we are very fortunate to have this signed now prior to what could be an early federal election, and then who knows what would happen with this fund. And how much better off we are than many provinces that we have this formula-based and not what I call the lottery system. So a big thanks to AMO for getting this done, and you can all expect your checks very shortly. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dolan. All in favor? Carried. 15.1, multi-year vehicle procurement strategy. A mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Locke, second by Deputy Warden Coghlan. That CCW 2024-204 dated September 10th regarding multi-year vehicle procurement strategy be received, and that on an annual basis with the approval of the Director and the GM of impacted department, the General Manager of Corporate Performance, and in line with Council-approved vehicle replacement schedule, fleet staff proceed to place vehicle orders, including issuance of deposits where required for vehicles where lead times extend beyond 12 months and up to 24 months, and that staff modify related policies and procedures to reflect Council's direction to staff proceed with a multi-year vehicle procurement strategy where required. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you very much. Any other matters for consideration? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair Cox. So I did mention we did pull the one item from in camera. Does anybody feel the need to go in for the labor negotiations? I am not seeing any. Then I'll fast forward to the motions. The direction in camera contained within confidential item CCW 2024-233 dated September 10, 2024 regarding labor relations or employee negotiations be voted upon and approved in accordance with section 239(6)B of the Municipal Act. Moved by Councillor Greenlaw, second by Councillor Fowler. All in favor? That is carried. And secondly, the direction in camera contained within confidential item CCW 2024-235 dated September 10, 2024 regarding labor relations or employee negotiations voted upon and approved in accordance with section 239(6)B of the Municipal Act. Moved by Councillor Lavoie, second by Councillor Walker. All in favor? That is carried. So with that, look for adjournment. That the September 10th, 2024 meeting of the Committee of the Whole be adjourned at 10:50. Well, if I drag it out, I can say 10:54. Moved by alternate Councillor Sander, second by Councillor McDonald. All in favor? That is carried. Couldn't let you get here, Henry, and not move a motion. Thank you, everyone.